All right, terrific. I am seeing a check mark for us for our YouTube platform and Facebook. So I will just double check that we are in fact live. All right, well, I'm starting to see the alert that we are showing up live. So I'll get started, some housekeeping that I have, and wait for some additional people that might be joining us or commenting on the broadcast with us. But happy Friday to you all, and good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever it is you are tuned into our broadcast. I recently was visiting with a couple of folks who said, I never catch you live, but I always watch it whenever it's on replay. So these videos are designed to be available to you to conveniently watch at your fingertips. And you can do that by visiting the video section here on our Facebook page or the video library on our YouTube channel. We're actually streaming this right now in real time on both our Facebook platform and YouTube, and that's our way of connecting with different audiences that may or may not have those platforms. Now, if it is your very first time onto our page, I want to give you a sincere welcome and thank you for joining us onto our broadcast. You can make sure that you get alerted when we post content or go live in the future by liking our page, by making sure that you're following it here on Facebook, or subscribe to the YouTube channel for future updates as well. Now, if you do not already know, we generally have two broadcasts at least on a weekly basis to update you on what's going on in the city with our city councilors, our mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and they get to share with you things that are on their radar and things that you should be aware of. And then the other broadcast is the opportunity for you to learn about some of our newer partners in our organization. They may be newer businesses, they may be expanding into our community, or they may just be around and finally made the jump into becoming a partner of our organization. Regardless, we want to introduce them to you formally and for you to learn more about them behind kind of their logo and behind their storefront or face front and facade. So that's why we do the videos that we do. All of them can be rewound, rewatched, and replayed. And then, of course, we always ask that if you are tuned in with us, you hit the share button on this video so others in your network can also see that we're live and can tune in if they can at this very moment. With that, I do want to introduce Jen. And Jen, thank you so much for fitting our broadcast into your schedule and for being able to join me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to finally chat with you.
I know. And we said finally because I ran into, I'm going to take the blame myself because I'm not a tech guru. And we ran into tech issues this past Wednesday and we're not able to kind of have this around the time that we're able to. So we've instead pushed it off to Friday. But it's still kind of following that same trajectory as those other newer broadcasts. And today's broadcast, of course, is with Jen with Artistic Fusion Dance. And Jen, I want to just immediately open this up and ask you to tell us who you are personally.
Okay, well, my name is Jen. I have owned Artistic Fusion for the last 23 years. Dance has been part of my life since I was 3 years old. It's gotten me through some really challenging times in my childhood, and dance was always a constant in my life. So from a very young age, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher and I wanted to own my own studio. And that's what I've done. All these years, I've been teaching thousands of kids in the northern Denver area, and it's my dream. I love it.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I never knew that I guess you can start as young as 3 years old. That's crazy though, that you've been
Yeah.
doing it for as long as you have, and then that you took that passion and made it into this business idea and concept. Are you originally from Colorado? Is this kind of your place of home?
No, I actually grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, but my grandmother lived in Denver. So every
Okay.
summer I would spend my summers with my grandma. And so I
Yeah.
always knew I wanted to move to Denver when I graduated from high school.
Yeah. And you started up Artistic Fusion, well, you mentioned 23 years ago. Is that right?
Yep,
Wow.
in
So
2000.
you had
Yep.
to have started as soon as you like started dance. It's either that or you just got great genes.
I have pretty good genes. I'm
Yeah.
older than I look, yeah.
That's awesome. So 23 years ago, was it here in Westminster or where was it located initially?
Yep, I started in Westminster on 120th and Pecos,
Yeah.
so North Westminster, and then after 7 years, we moved to 120th in Huron. So for 14 years, I was in Westminster, and then I found a great space across the highway, which then put me into Thornton for the last 8 years, and now I'm back in Westminster, back home.
Well, we are so glad to have you back here.
Thank you.
Even for that short stint, I'm sure we've missed having you in our community. But what led you to coming back to our community and really making Westminster, picking back up on where your hometown for this business was?
I always like being I've always felt drawn closer to the mountains, and I love where Westminster sits. We do a lot of our events at the Westin Westminster, so that's kind of feels like home for myself and my students. We do a lot of our dance competitions and things over there, and I loved the idea of the downtown Westminster expansion, and I thought that would be a great place for us to put some roots down where the
Well,
growth is happening.
yeah, all the above check marks on that.
Mhm.
So you already led me into this next question, and you were sharing that you do a lot of your competitions over at the Westin. And what are the services that you're offering over at Artistic Fusion? Is it just toward kiddos? Is it a mixture or a myriad of services? What are they that people can tap into?
We actually start dancing with mommy and me kids at age 1, which is something that we just started this year. So I actually had a little girl that came in crawling this year, and
Oh,
I got her all the way to walking by the time she was in the recital. But so we basically cater to age 1 to 18. We do have some adult classes. We have Pilates, we have adult hip hop, adult ballet. We have different umbrellas under our studio. So we have competitive teams, we have recreational classes. We have an in-house theater, which is new to our new location. So we're able to host in-house performances for our students to give
mm.
them more performance opportunities. So we kind of run the whole gamut of what we offer.
Yeah, I love that. And with these performance opportunities that you're sharing, are these programs or events that are open to the public, or is it just open to the kiddos that are signed up or the students that are signed up through your programs?
It varies. Sometimes we had an open house and we had performances that were open to the community. Sometimes we'll just have it closed off to the parents. It just depends on what the particular event is that we're hosting.
Absolutely. And you've already shared some pretty exciting things that you've been doing over the last several months and years into kind of transitioning back here and adding on and being close to our new downtown. But if I were to ask you what's on the horizon or what's kind of coming up, I'm sure you've already thought through that, right? Or thought through what are some things that I have on my radar? Are there anything that you want to share that's coming up for you all?
We have our Year of the End recital that we do at the Pinnacle. That's coming up in June. And then we restart the whole year over in August. So we're kind of looking
Mhm.
forward to wrapping up what we have going on now, graduating our seniors, sending them off, and then starting a new season in August.
Yeah, and it sounds like your seasons are connected closely to the school calendar.
Yes.
Yeah,
We
was
run
that right? You're like, yeah, I know that. Was that by design?
Yes, so we run just like a school. So our Christmas breaks, our spring breaks, they all coordinate with the school schedule.
Oh, I'm sure that's a smart way of doing that for, especially for parents as they're
Mhm.
trying to navigate the numerous things that they have and their kids
Yes.
have too. You're allowing for that to happen.
Yes.
So there are a few other different I would say schools that are out there that teach dance or what would make you a little bit more unique or maybe what's a little different than some of your competitors or those that are in the same space as you?
I think what makes us stand out is we have a long track record of putting out well-known dancers into the community. So Britt Stewart, for example, she was the first Black pro on Dancing with the Stars. If anyone watches Dancing
Yeah.
with the Stars, I started teaching her when she was 8 years old. So she grew up at the studio. she's probably one of our most known graduates besides the Lynch family. So
Mm,
Ross Lynch was on Austin and Ally and their whole family. They also started dancing at the studio. So we have this track record of taking these kids, and if that's what they want to do, they become famous in the entertainment world. So we're known for
that's
that.
awesome.
Yeah. And we're known for the high quality of dancing that we offer and that we put out there. And
Mm,
in 2022, our teams went to Orlando for the Dance Awards Nationals, and we were awarded Best Contemporary Studio, which was a huge
mm.
honor. And so we're just kind of known for not just being known as the go-to in Denver, but also nationally recognized in our programming and in our education with the kids.
Yeah, that is tremendous work that you're doing, which is so awesome to see who you've had kind of spread up from your teaching. I bet
Yeah.
that is in itself pretty enriching, right?
Yes.
We've had a quick comment, and it's just from our past chairman, Brian Head, giving a quick good morning message. Thank you, Brian, for tuning in. Maybe your girls might be interested in learning more about fusion arts dance here in Westminster. But you shared the award that you received in 2023, which is super exciting. And it's even more exciting because we're coming off of this pandemic that happened, right? For like a couple of years that really was hard on our businesses and led to challenges. And so how do you speak to that award? Like, how are you able to navigate that and maybe weather that and then be able to magnify your work so much that you were awarded for it? I know
I
that's like
think
a good question.
no, I think it speaks to not only my staff and myself and our dedication to the kids, but also the kids' dedication to the art. That when COVID hit and we were mandated to be closed, we jumped right on Zoom. We pivoted our whole program. The kids learned an entire full-scale ballet on Zoom that we performed in a parking lot in August of 2020. So we've just never, we're not quitters. We never give up. We just
Sure.
always find a way to keep going. And so that award of winning Best Contemporary Studio out of all the studios that were in attendance was just
Yeah.
kind of a reminder for myself and a reward for myself and the kids that you can commit to
Mhm.
excellence no matter what circumstance. And as
Yeah.
long as you know what you want and you go out and get it, anything's possible. So
Oh,
it
yeah.
was very sweet.
That's super. Yeah, that's right. And I had not heard of anyone that did that in the parking lot. So, I mean, how creative is that? And how amazing to see that passion, dedication that you have in your students and in yourself. Um, we don't have any quick questions or comments that are away. So, if you're comfortable with it, I'd love to be able to ask you some questions around kind of the myths behind dance or the world of, deciding to compete, etc. And we do these with our newer partners just because sometimes there may be apprehension for someone to seek your service or work with you because they've heard something or had a personal experience or whatever that reason might be. So what we do is find some of those top ones that are out there that we've heard or seen and be able to ask those of you and kind of be able to hear your thought, right? And I'm sure one of those this is probably something that you hear often from people, and that is that they are not comfortable dancing in front of others. Do you
Hmm.
feel like that is an actual thing that's out there, or is there more to that?
Um, I don't know if they're not comfortable dancing in front of others because they've never done it before, or you know what I mean? Because that's where our in-house theater is so handy because it gives them the experience, even if they're dancing in front of their peers, to feel comfortable under the lights. Because when you're under the lights on a stage, you actually cannot see the audience. You're kind of blinded by that because of the lights. So we teach them
Mhm.
to just kind of either if they're really nervous then to find their purpose or their internal why they're doing it and tap
Mhm.
into what makes them feel good in being on stage and sharing their expression with others. So
That makes sense. Yeah.
yeah,
And
I don't
so,
I just don't know if they don't like it because they've never tried it before, or you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah, the other variables that contribute to that, right?
Yeah.
And so this one is really around someone who feels that they don't have the rhythm or the coordination to dance.
That's why you sign up for dance classes, because we teach you the rhythm and the coordination, so that we can help with that.
Yeah. This is probably something that was pretty popular, I'd imagine, during COVID, particularly where you saw dance groups or studios start to do online things. You even saw this in the fitness industry, right? Like they'd create these videos and people can access them whenever they would like to. This says that I can learn from YouTube or online, right? Like, why would I need to go to a studio? And what would you speak to that?
I mean, I think that if you wanted an introduction to dance, by all means do it on YouTube or online. But there is something about the connection of being with other like-minded people in a classroom and having a teacher that's able to give you correction and direction one-on-one instead of a broad. You can get a broad idea on online, but until you come into the classroom and the teacher's actually able to assess you and give you corrections one-on-one, that's how you'll actually improve.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. So it's a good kind of stepping stone, and
Yeah,
having that person that they're. Yeah, I always say it's like the objective person, right? Like they are seeing what you don't see, because sometimes we
exactly.
look in the mirror, we see things, and we criticize ourselves a little bit differently than other people see it from outside. So you could
Exactly.
even be doing better than what you think in certain areas, but there are other parts that need that improvement.
Exactly.
This next one talks to the length of time, or speaks to the length of time, and it really talks about how dance takes a really long time to learn.
I mean, when you're 5 years old and you're learning how to do a plie in ballet class, you could be a professional at the New York City Ballet and still be doing plies to warm up. So
Hmm.
it's just a progression, and it does take time to perfect your craft. They say that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at anything. So you have to put that time in to hone in
Hmm.
your craft. But there's also the part that I haven't spoke on yet, which is the community part, which
Hmm.
is you're also in a class of like-minded kids in our studio that are a community. So they encourage each other, they build upon, they challenge each other. So it does take a long time, but I always believe that dance is a lifelong journey. It doesn't end when you're 18. You
Hmm.
can pick up a pair of tap shoes when you're 75 years old and keep going. So at any time you can pick it up and it's always there for you.
Yeah, I love that. We have a question, so I'm going to stop throwing your way these myths for a quick minute while I pull up this question, and I'm just pulling it up so you can be able to see it in case I read it incorrectly and allow for you the chance to kind of think about it. But this comes from our current board chairman, and that's Parker. He's asking if you offer competitive dance. So, meaning, are there dance competitions that your students go to as well?
Yes, that's one part of our studio is we have two different competitive teams. We have a full-time company and we have a part-time company, and the names kind of speak for what they are. The part-time kids come 1 day a week. They do four competitions a year. The full-time kids are kids who want to perhaps go to Juilliard or have a professional career. They come 5 to 6 days a week and they take more classes. They compete at more competitions. Those are the kids who won at the national level best contemporary studio. Those are those kids. So we offer a niche for any type of interest of kids who like to do dance competitions.
Mm-hmm. Well, Parker, I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much for tuning in and for it. This next one speaks to the gender that comes to your studio, and it says that dance is just for women. What can you say to that?
I would say that's 100% false. I love that we have our ballroom teacher, Mr. Idolo, is a male, and he is the choreographer behind a lot of the Dancing with the Stars dances that happen that you see on TV. And
Mm-hmm.
so he's been a great addition to our faculty because not only does he show that men dance too, but he's able to make the boys that we have in our studio feel comfortable and having a mentor that's a male. So um, the boys that we have come through our studio are the ones who actually get a lot more college scholarships because they're kind of um, they're the minority in the dance world, so to speak. So they end up getting more college scholarships and a little bit more recognition. They're always around the girls. So I always think that to be a boy in dance is a win-win for them.
Right. You did mention in this answer about ballroom dance, and it actually it quickly correlates to one of the myths that I hadn't had a chance to ask you yet. And I'm hoping that there's a great answer for those folks that might want to do that, but feel like they, in a sense, you have to have a partner to attend that dance class.
Yep, that's also false. All of our ballroom classes now are taught individually. And we actually, Mr. Idolo, our ballroom teacher, is taking a group of kids to a ballroom competition. And the way that they've structured ballroom competitions is you can compete solo now. So you could dance with a
Oh,
partner or you could dance and just show the techniques solo. So ballroom
mhm.
has changed a bit too, to where you can have a
Yeah.
partner or you can do it by yourself.
Yeah, that's huge.
Hmm.
Really good to know, I'm sure, for
Yep.
those people that are interested in that. Um, Here's another one, and I and I already feel like I know the answer to it, but it says that dance is an effective exercise.
I mean, it depends on what dance class you're talking about. Tap is a little bit more aerobic, ballet is anaerobic, but they're working different muscles or working different, you're working at a different pace. So just because you're working slowly at a ballet bar, you're you're strengthening smaller muscle groups, whereas in a tap or a hip hop, the heart rate's up and you're sweating. Um, Pilates, another one that's a great exercise. We have a reformer in our studio and a Pilates teacher, and kids come out of Pilates and they're not drenched with sweat, but they can tell you they got a really great workout because it's really getting inside and working from the inside out. So it just
Mhm.
depends on what type of class you're taking and what the expectation is.
Totally. And I feel like any movement is movement, right? Like, so if you're starting from a place where you're completely sedentary, especially, you're still getting out there and you're doing something instead of nothing at all.
Yes.
This one asks, and it's similar to the sports, right? So this with sports, right? Like sometimes, especially if you talk about basketball or any of those types, like where you've got longer legs, so you probably have like an advantage over this, or you're faster, etc.
Mhm.
That there's only one body type that's good at dance. So like that you have to be, for example, this height or have these curves or not have those curves to do something.
I think that's kind of an old school mentality. And I think it comes from the ballet world that, you have to be tall and lanky and leggy to do ballet. But I think since we've progressed in society with pro body image and accepting all different types, you see all different types of body types even on the Rockettes now, and you didn't see that before. They're accepting shorter girls, where before you had to be 6 foot. They've lowered the height and you see shorter girls on there. So across the board in the dance industry, it's
Mhm.
a lot more, any body type is accepted right now, which is
Mhm.
great because it opens it up to more people who want to dance.
Absolutely, it sure does. And we've kind of answered this. Thank you, Parker, for that. That dancing is a sport. For those of you, there's a lot of similarities in that.
Yes.
This one is around, and I think it really comes back to sometimes when you see dancers, you see them in a specific physique, or you feel like you see them only in a particular body size or shape or size, right? And so this one asks, why don't dancers eat, right? So there's a myth that they don't eat to be that size that they are.
Yeah, I don't think that that's the case anymore. I think that's also just an old ism that exists in people's mind about dancers, but that's not really the case. You have to be very careful, especially with working with young kids and teens, about how you approach health and wellness and how they fuel their bodies, because um, it's a very sensitive subject. It's not one that I shy away from. I don't shy away from any subject. So last year I brought in a nutritionist for the kids, and
Mm,
he talked to them about the proper way to fuel their bodies if they're going into a dance competition weekend where they're dancing, how, what kind of carbs, quick sugars, how to sustain so that they have longevity and to prevent injury. So I think education with nutrition is a great tool to go hand in hand with dance, which is something we also provide,
mhm.
but definitely um, in any program that kids shouldn't be encouraged, or that mentality that you don't eat is not a healthy one or one that we promote whatsoever.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And
Hmm.
I love that you bring in speakers to talk to the kiddos about that. It
Hmm.
shows your continual commitment to them to even do those things in their own home environment. So
Hmm.
if it's not something that you see and can control, then at least they can glean from any of these discussions and hopefully go back and implement that in their own lives. Now, I've quickly posted the website for folks to find out a
Hmm.
little bit more about you, and your company and brand and all of that. And you are located back in Westminster, but can we quickly tell folks where that is?
We're on 88th and Sheridan, next to the Pro Golf. That seems to be where everybody knows. the pro golf place, and we're just right next door to that and across the street from downtown Westminster.
And are you open all the time for people to kind of drop in? Are there specific hours?
We mostly operate in the evening after school, so 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock. If anyone wants to swing by and tour the studio and kind of see us in action, that would be the best time to come by.
So I've been peppering you with so many questions, and I thank you so much for fielding them all and like throwing even your own additional spin to them and your answers. I think that they're always so enriching when you can speak from your own perspective as an expert. Were there any additional comments that you wanted to make, or something that I didn't get a chance to ask you that you were really like hoping that I was going to ask you about that you wanted people to know about?
I think that, as far as myths are concerned, I think that the TV show Dance Moms kind of put a bad spin on what happens in dance studio life, and I just want to encourage anyone that that isn't the norm. That TV show was actually abnormal of what actually happens, and we I'm very dedicated in mindfulness and growth, and I just want kids to feel happy and have a great growing experience when they're in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And myself and my staff come from a place of love, and we just love these kids like crazy. So, and our families, and we're super excited to welcome new families in. So that's kind of how our core values and how we operate as a dance studio.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said something because I saw that myth that was like dance teachers are mean and
Mhm.
all this stuff. And I was like, I'm not going to ask that. Like, no brainer. Like, look at Jen. Like, she's super sweet. So, and I guess I didn't realize that there was this whole thing that's out there. So I'm so glad that you spoke to that because I'm sure those that are in that space and kind of are keeping up with it, they may have seen that and been discouraged from it. I've
Yeah,
also quickly dropped in your phone number for folks. So
great.
phone number, the address, and even the websites included if you are interested in going in, seeing their space, learning more, and connecting with them. Of course, I always recommend if you're reviewing this and you have a particular question that's more personal to you that you don't feel comfortable typing into the chat, you can always DM the page. We'll get that over to our guest and be able to get that answered for you, whether or not we're in real time. I request if you are tuned in real time that you hit that share button. And if you are viewing this later on, that you give us a hashtag replay so I know you tuned in, especially if you make a comment so we can come back and be able to pull that and find it and engage with you. But I do want to thank you so much for taking the time to learn more about Jen and Artistic Fusion here in Westminster. We are so excited to welcome them back into our community and see all the amazing things that they offer for everyone, really, from all ages and
Mhm.
gender, and also some of their cool accolades that they've received, especially over this last year. So thank you so much, Jen,
Thank
for being
you.
on here with me. I personally enjoyed learning more about you, and I can't wait to be able to step foot in there and
Yes,
have some one-on-one time together. So hopefully we can do that pretty soon. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
you too. Thank you so, so much.